Hey everybody, Jordan here, the PH is silent, and in this episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show, we talk about GenCon and our experience with GenCon, as well as conflicting personality types at the table. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan with the silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucien, over at Sir Lucien Gaming. Say hello, sir.
Hello.
And
I was so hoping you remembered the coffee cup.
Oh, I did, but I did not.
I did not. That's okay.
I was going to do it afterwards because I realized that my video... Are you guys ready for this? So my video is backwards. Not on the Twitch stream, but on my video. So if you're watching this on YouTube. So if I go to video settings and I disable... Oh, I just flipped. And then I hold up my awesome Saturday Morning D&D Show coffee mug.
Yay.
That is going to be the coffee mug that I'm sipping throughout the day. So if you want to get a Saturday Morning D&D Show, I know Agrippa the Green got one. She's really excited about it. And I bought one. So far, we've sold two. I'm not shilling it or anything, but it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to flip back. There we go.
It's very D&D style because Greg Tito opened his up today, and he's been doing it where he takes like this exaggerated long pause of drink as the stream is starting. It was awesome. Yeah, it was really good. So
yes. Really fun. Love my coffee. Although I think he had water in his mug, and I definitely have coffee because it is Saturday morning, and you have coffee on the Saturday Morning D&D Show. This is what we do, people. Thank you so much for coming out, and all of the people in chat. It's really awesome to see you here. We just got back from GenCon. Really exciting stuff. So we missed last week. We didn't have a show last week, so that's kind of sad. But
we kind of tried, but schedules didn't work out quite right, and it was just a really weird. It was my fault mostly because of my tight schedule of trying to run games for two different companies.
Yeah.
Definitely put a lot of strain on everyone getting to where they need to go on time. So next year, for sure.
Yeah, we'll plan better.
Starting planning now. We will do a show for sure.
And then we were thinking like we'll do it from our phones, and it'll just be kind of like us in a hotel with our phones or something. But even like the hotel internet and the phone internet is not substantial enough for Twitch. So I don't know, like we're gonna have to play around and actually do some phone calls at hotels and be like, how fast is your internet, and could we stream this? It's only like 45 minutes, maybe an hour. But let's open some show notes and where do we get the cup? That's a good question. Hang on.
There will be a link in the description for sure. And he probably will post it in chat in a moment, but you will see it also in the video if you're watching this on YouTube and you happen to miss the live show, which I recommend. I know it's a Saturday morning and you got lots of stuff to do. You people are all super busy, but if you can make the live show, it's always awesome.
Here we go. So I made a Teespring account, and so far I have a cup and a sticker. But if you're interested in the cup, soon more. I'm getting a T-shirt designed, and I just got the design for a second T-shirt. So those will be up there at some point if you guys are interested in T-shirts. Not Saturday Morning D&D Show T-shirts, although we could make those if people are interested in them. I could put the logo on a T-shirt. I know Lucian's probably interested in that, so
I want to wear one all the time.
So I'll look into that and I'll see what I can do.
I love that show.
That SMD&D show, it's so good.
Yeah.
So GenCon. So man, that was just my first GenCon that I've ever been to, and I had a blast. What was your takeaway from GenCon, Mr. Lucien? What did you do? What was exciting for you?
Yeah. Again, every year I say it. So if you'd have talked to me, so I've gone 3 now. So what is that? 2016, 2017, 2018. I was there during last year, which was the 50 year, which
that was a big one, right?
But if you'd have talked to me just like this, we'd had a Saturday Morning D&D show after each one of those. I would have came back in 2016 and said, this was the greatest experience I'd ever had. This is super cool. I've never done it before. And then the next year would have been, oh, this was so good, even better than last year, even though last year was the first. It was the 50 year and it was awesome and there was tons of people and it was great. And then you'd see, now you're getting this show. And I'm like, it was even better than those two. It's been, every time I go, it's gotten better and better. Every time I go, I get better at knowing what I want to do. I always have regrets about what I missed and I couldn't do, but I always meet more and more people each and every time. So it's like you're meeting up and you're starting to get to know other people that you never would have known of. I ran into several of my players that played in games previously, and we got to talk with them. We saw people from the show. We saw people that were friends of ours. So it was just like, it was this really cool thing of almost like meeting up with other people, and it's like growing this community of, it's a community of people that go to this same thing kind of thing. And now like I feel like I'm in it, and I'm ready for it to expand, and I'm ready to be with, you know, hanging out with those people that have been there for 5 years and 10 years and 20 years and still have that excitement. And I realize a lot of people lose that excitement, but I'm still in that excitement phase. And it's awesome. So thanks for the host from Indoor Adventure and Graybeard's Tavern this morning. Thank you guys very much. And I see a lot of our regulars out there in the in chat already. So that's great. Keep it up, guys. But that's just, it was awesome. And there's so many stories, you know, where do you even start? I mean, I just getting to pick Jordan up after he's got his badge, you know, that's super huge for us. You know, that was cool.
Graybeard was like, you're a lot taller than I thought you would be. And I was like, tall guy.
Yeah, it was cool. And it was funny because I'll let you tell the story, because you definitely went through trials and tribulations to get there. So you had like sorrow and despair before, but then you're finally there and you get excitement and accomplishment and fun, and then it's like trial and despair going home. It was this craziness. But that's your story. I'll let you tell it.
Well, no, so my flight got delayed because of I went to the airport at 4 a.m, and then they were like, okay, your flight is ready for 5:30 in the morning. And then it got pushed to 6 because of a mechanical error. And then it got pushed to 7. And then all of a sudden it got pushed to 11 a.m. And I'm just like, I need to get to Gen Con. Like, I've got tickets to go see stuff. So they found me a new flight. But I ended up instead of getting into Indianapolis at 11:30 a.m., I got in at 7 p.m. And that means that I missed Adam Coble and Travis McElroy playing Dungeon World together, which I had a ticket for. So really, of like the whole Gen Con experience, I had a great time. That's the one thing that I'm really sad about, because I was super looking forward to that. And I'm a big fan of the Mabim Bam and the McElroy brothers in general, Adventure Zone and stuff. So I was really excited to see Travis McElroy, and that didn't happen. But c'est la vie. But I went through the whole waiting in line experience kind of thing. That was really fun. Like, I got there and I got my badge and met up with you, and then we went back and just played some games at the hotel, because I was kind of like, well, what's going on? And the one thing that I had to do on Thursday I couldn't do. So instead we decided to just head back to the hotel and play board games, which was fun.
Yeah, because we had a game that could have went from 8 to midnight, but I just thought after your terrible day of waiting around, you know, it was just, you just needed to kind of hang out and not just be somewhere you weren't familiar or get a beer, that kind of thing. So we went to the restaurant, we had some food, and then we had we took a board game and we went and played in one of the rooms, which was super fun. And Cyberwolf had showed up the night before and hung out with us. And then we had a friend of ours, Tigray, who was a player in one of our campaigns, had showed up. He was from Arizona and was there with his daughter. And so we got to meet up with a lot of people. And I think I'm hoping to do more of that next year, where we have people come over and hang out with us at the hotels and play games with us and stuff after, you know, we get a bunch of the stuff done during the day. So I think that'll be super cool. But it was filled with lots of stuff going on. Like, so even from my point of view, I got there, I picked up Graybeard on Wednesday morning, and we drove out nice and leisurely, drive down, not too far. Took our time, got to the hotel, and then I did the GM meetup for 2 different companies, because I volunteered to run games for Monty Cook, and I also volunteered to run games for Magpie Gaming, which I love those people. I love all of them. Working with any of the 2 groups is super awesome. And to go pick up my badge, because I was running enough games, they paid for my GM badge, the 4-day GM badge. They had the meetup, so I went to the hotels and met up with them. So that was kind of our Wednesday night hangout. Cyberwolf came over and hung out with us Wednesday night. Then Thursday happens, and we thought we were going to be picking up Jordan at like noon. So I had this nice window of gap between I think my last thing was done at 11, and my next shift of what I need to do is at 2. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be perfect. This is going to be a gap. And then, you get the dreaded text in the morning. Nope, it's the plane's late. Oh no, the plane's late. So we're just going through that whole thing. But
and I had never had that happen before. That was just like annoying. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you just want to be there, and then just things just keep getting in the way. It's crazy. I always hate it too on the way home, because on the way there you're figuring it's just cutting into a little bit of the time while I'm going to be there, but no big deal. Excitement's building. But it's on my way home when I'm tired and now I just want to be home, and yet they say the plane can't do this or I can't. That's when it really gets to me. But hopefully next year it all works out.
What was kind of like you DM'd a bunch of games and you worked a booth and stuff, and I think we've talked about, like, you ran into Matt Colville, which was really fun, and he remembered you, so that was really fun. But was there a particular highlight that really stands out?
I think the overall highlight, and it wasn't like it was a specific moment like I think you're gonna say, because I think you have one in mind, but for me it was me and you and Graybeard finally kind of meeting up and spending the weekend and doing the things we like to do, and then having those conversations like we're friends in the same town, like we're just hanging out, everything's aligning, we're having lunches or dinners together, we're hanging out in the hotel rooms, we're playing games together, we're talking about show stuff, but we're also talking about our lives and things. And that for me was what made it great, because since January, when we really kicked this thing off, I think it's been building. There's been a really good friendship that's building, and it's gotten really super strong, and I love it. And that was my highlight, is saying, okay, Jordan was able to come down even after I never thought it was going to happen, because you had just had your honeymoon, and I was thinking, it's going to be tough to do 2 trips like this in a row. But your wife is obviously an angel to let you have gone this stuff and not give you too much trouble. Or maybe she did. Maybe she has a whole list of things you have to do when you got home. I don't know.
No, it was it was just money. It just came down to money. But I made the numbers work, because a little more expensive for me to fly out there than it is for you to drive down.
True.
And there's no direct flights, so that makes it even more expensive when you have to take 2, sometimes 3 planes to get over to Indianapolis, because I live in Podunk, Idaho. So you know. I'm just kind of going over some notes that obviously meeting you was great. I'm going to sound like a jerk now, because it's just like, well, Lucien was great and stuff, but then I did all this other stuff.
All this other cool stuff.
No, it was really fun to network and meet with other people. And if you watched my GenCon video, that's kind of what I talked about. But the majority of that was just really fun to meet fans of the show and hand out pins to people. And also it was fun to meet other YouTubers and other streamers and just chat with them. So that kind of was worth the price of admission to me, even though that was just at a random pub downtown that we were all just hanging out at. Definitely had a lot of fun Saturday when I kind of learned that I could use these generic tickets to weasel my way into certain games. So I was able to play a Kids on Bikes game, which is a really exciting RPG that I have high hopes of creating some kind of a Halloween adventure, and I want to record it, and I'll probably try to put it on the Saturday Morning D&D Show, but I want to write this Kids on Bikes adventure and then record, like, here's the Saturday Morning D&D Show Halloween special that we record, and then we're able to, like, throw it on. So we'll see if that happens. No promises, I guess, but that's like my plan, is to run a Kids on Bikes games. And then I had a really great time with the Numenera game. I was trying to get into Lucien's game that he was running, but his table was full. So they were like, well, hey, the rest of you guys can just make a new table over here and I'll run a game. And I had a lot of fun with James was the
James Wall
games master, and he was really an awesome game master. We had some really good players, like some other players. One player had never played Numenera before, but like took to it like a fish to water, and another one had played Numenera before, and she was really excited and knew kind of how to play and how to like you compromise and bargain with the DM to lower your difficulty challenge, as opposed to, well, I said it was 19, so the difficulty's 19. You're like, I guess I'll roll. Like, you can always kind of be like, well, what if I approach it from the east, or what if I attack just its leg? And they're like, okay, that could lower it, that could do this. And which is kind of the fun of the Cypher system, I think, is this like compromise that you make. But real quick, I guess before we get into a bunch of other stuff, I wanted to talk about the Eberron panel I went to. Because Keith Baker had an Eberron panel, and I went to that, and he had some really interesting things that he said in that panel that I don't think have gotten. I've been reading a lot of blog posts and stuff, but I don't think a lot of people have been talking about exactly like what he stated in that panel. And one thing is that the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron that he wrote and helped create and things like that, it's not this like play test to eventually become a hardback book. They said that this is not really an experiment, but like this was intended to be a PDF only thing. And when the rules are defined, it will be a print on demand kind of book. But it's not like if he writes a hardcover, if they ever come out with a hardcover Eberron book for 5th edition, it's going to have different stuff in it, which I kind of applaud Keith Baker because, you know, the information's out there. Like Eberron hasn't changed because it's always takes place after this war. It's 2 years after this great war ended, and that's where your adventure starts. It's not like the living campaign that the Forgotten Realms is in. So he was saying it doesn't make any sense from him to rehash all of this history and all of this information when you can buy the 4th edition Eberron book as a PDF on DriveThruRPG. You can buy the 3.5 Eberron book. So I thought that was really cool that they're like, if we make something, it's going to be something new and something that adds on to the world of Eberron that fans of Eberron will be able to like grab onto and use. So that was really cool. And then another thing that I thought was interesting is when he was writing Eberron, he wanted Eberron to be in 5th edition for quite a while, but he was in conversations back and forth with Wizards because Wizards of the Coast wants it to fit into their the planes of existence, the Great Wheel cosmology, like the even Spelljammer kind of a thing. Like this crystal sphere is holding Eberron, and this crystal sphere is holding Dark Sun, and this one is holding the Forgotten Realms. They want all of their campaign settings to be somehow connected, so that if you have characters in the Forgotten Realms and you find a portal that takes you to Eberron, you can then play your Forgotten Realms characters in Eberron. And Keith Baker doesn't really like that. He likes that Eberron is its own separate mythology, its own separate thing, and that there's no way for you to get from one to the other. So in order for Eberron to become 5th edition, they had to compromise. Him and Wizards had to compromise on both sides. And so the way he described it is that the Forgotten Realms is here, and the Great Wheel cosmology is around the Forgotten Realms and all of that stuff and the different planes of existence and the prime material plane and all of that jazz. And then there's a void of space, like a quadrillion million amount of miles that is over here. And then over here is Eberron. So they're separated by nothing for a vast amount of nothing. And basically left it up to the players. If the players want there to be a magic portal that takes them there, or if they want to actually put them in a ship and traverse the great amount of nothing to get over to Eberron, they could. But Eberron has its own gods, its own world over here that's separate from the Forgotten Realms because of this great void. And I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting. So I wanted to share that because not a lot of people are talking about it, but he was very much like no, like we were in long talks about trying how to get the mythology to compromise, to synergize, you know?
Yeah. And really all of it, no matter what Wizards of the Coast wants, or even Keith himself wants, it's the GMs who run the games decide how or what's in between these worlds and if they bring them into their campaigns or not, right? Because all the books are about suggestions. All the books are about ideas that you can use. And all the books are meant for you to steal things from, whether whole cloth or just pieces and parts. And I think it does feel evident that Keith kind of wants it one way and Wizards of the Coast wants it one way.
Yeah.
But it does sound like they've come together and say, okay, obviously each way we both want isn't exactly the same, but let's find a way that works for both enough. And keep moving, because really it's amazing kind of success story to think about. That was a contest at one point to build a new world for the Dungeons and Dragons franchise. And it went from that, it came from somebody on the outside building a cool world, winning, over getting voted over the other cool worlds that might have been built. And it's in there. It's part of the canon as far as if you want to follow your canon. But I'm always leery about canon anyways with role-play games, because so many of us use homebrew, or so many of us use, your Forgotten, we've talked about this in many shows, your Forgotten Realms is different from my Forgotten Realms, even though we both have a Red Larch, or we both have a Water Deep, or we both have whatever it might be. So you got to be careful. I always caution people before getting upset. Like even in chat was talking about, a little bit of the, oh, Eberron is better than this, or oh, I wish this campaign, like Ravnica, I feel like is getting some heat from a certain core group of the Dungeons and Dragons community because it's not part of what they consider their canon, or that kind
it's
of
not
thing.
Part of the prime material plane Forgotten Realms-ness.
It's
not Ravenloft.
Like
it's not
they're bringing in the card stuff, but that's okay. I mean, it's all about ideas, and you don't have to like all of the ideas. It's just having a big option sitting there before you to say, hey, if you like this thing, put it in your game. If you like this thing, put it in your game. Like you love like the Ravenloft stuff, and I'm not really big on it, so you probably won't see it a lot in my game, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go onto the forums or whatever and say there shouldn't be a Ravenloft, this isn't D&D, that's Vampire the Masquerade, or I'm not going to try to down on somebody because they love that stuff, and everybody has their own tastes, and that's what's cool about it. You just get to pick and choose. So I think Keith is one of those people that I think is a little bit of the I don't want to say hero, but I admire because he was able to build something and get it into something he loved, right? Because he obviously wouldn't have put that much effort into a world for Dungeons and Dragons if he didn't love Dungeons and Dragons in general, right? Before it started, when it happened, and even afterward, I'm sure his feelings of Dungeons and Dragons are pretty strong. And that's how I feel too. Like I hope to someday have something like that too, or I think we all do, where something we love, we become a part of in some way, in some lasting way. So I think that's really cool that he's done that. And he's doing the panels. And I think one of the things that you did that was really good about pointing out is because I think a lot of people were reading into situations without really having information. So they were trying to, they're only putting Eberron on the PDF, and it's playtest material only. It's not a printed book. So maybe that means Wizards of the Coast really doesn't like Eberron, so they're doing all these things to keep it down. But they're going to do a book for Ravnica, so they obviously must like, that's reading way too much into that kind of thing. I just think they're trying different avenues to get information out, and I think they're trying to remember they have a business based on printed books. Imagine that in 2018, when we all have the Kindles and we all have the online and we all want to play everything online, they're still trying to run a print business for the most part.
Yeah.
Newspapers are almost gone at this point, they're just online presences at this moment. Magazines go and, back and forth. It's just amazing to me. So I think it's just an evolution of what they're trying to do. Is DM's Guild going to be a good way for them to get products out? Is Drive Through RPG the way to get some products out there? Or D&D Beyond and the stuff they want, because everybody wants to have their own website at this point. Virtual tabletops and that kind of thing. They're just getting that product out there. So I think it was really cool but it's cool we have it, right? Eberron's out there.
No, I think it's really cool.
Info on Shard, bringing it up to 5e so that you can play it. If you get the PDF right now, even though it says playtest, if they update that PDF, you still get the updated PDF.
You can re-download it with the updates and stuff.
So that's cool. There's going to be artwork in it. There's going to be good rules in it. There's going to be good stuff that you can put in your campaign. So it's win-win for us as players, no matter what. So that's the way we should look at it, I think. And that kind of leads into our news, even though it's like Gen Con tied into news because they were talking about some of that stuff. But that was something I thought was interesting, is the Wizards of the Coast presence at Gen Con is not huge.
No, I was surprised about that. And actually Greybeard was telling me that they used to have like a huge castle, and it was this like Wizards of the Coast was big and they had a whole section, but nothing.
Yeah, like if you're walking through that big hall and you're trying to find like a vendor that's trying to stand out, that's got a big presence, you're talking about like Goodman Games, Fantasy Flight, Paizo,
yeah,
pretty big thing. They're pushing.
They had like two whole sections, one for
hall.
Their Pathfinder playtest and one for their like books and stuff. So
so it was interesting to me that there wasn't a bigger, and they have two big products. They have D&D, which is on a resurgence. but they also have Magic the Gathering, which still hasn't gone, is still super popular. I was just at the comic book store on yesterday, and they were running tournaments, Magic the Gathering tournaments. There's and there were a lot of people in there playing them, so it's still super popular. And I didn't see a huge presence. There was people selling cards, but they were mostly secondhand vendors. It wasn't like Wizards of the Coast booth.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody asked me where they could buy a D&D book, and I had a hard time telling them where to go to buy one.
I saw a couple, but I can't remember the name of the store that had them. But yeah.
But so that's super cool. I mean, I wish I could have got to go. That was one of the, you did a couple of panels, which were fun, and the
Eberron one pretty much took the cake, though. That was like the coolest panel, because Keith was just so passionate about it, and it got me thinking about Ravnica and how if they want Eberron to fit into their like weird, cosmology of Forgotten Realms and Faerun and stuff, then they probably want Ravnica to fit into that as well. And so it's going to be kind of interesting. And that's obviously an intellectual property that they own, that they can, I was going to say shove, but that's not the right word, but like meld it into Dungeons and Dragons and into this like cosmology that they have. This is an insight into the direction that Wizards wants to take campaign settings that I thought was interesting. Based on like just the conversations that Keith Baker was having with us, where he's like, well, yeah, they want it to be like this. And so it's like, I'm assuming every campaign setting that they come out with will want to fit into that somehow, so.
Right. And everybody has their own taste, and it's super okay for people to say, I don't like something. Nobody should feel
like we were saying earlier, if you're a dungeon master, you can do whatever you want with your game. Your homebrew game could be completely separate and not part of the Forgotten Realms. Like, it doesn't have to be anything.
Yeah, it's okay if you're not into that cyberpunk style of game. You're into hard, gritty sword and sorcery, low magic game, or you're into high magic game, or you love Spelljammer, and everybody else you try to find doesn't like it. You get to like what you like.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's really cool that they're trying to connect everything.
Me too.
Because I don't know, it goes back to like this default campaign setting video that I made a month ago or so. And I just really like the idea that we have this shared experience of Dungeons and Dragons. And if they're all connected in a way, then that shared experience means a little bit more, where it's like, no, my character from Dark Sun could go over and visit you in Eberron. Like, I like that idea. So, but that's just Jordan likes that idea. And so I would play a game that's like that. I like Spelljammer. I like the whole concept of like traversing worlds and things like that. So yeah.
And I've done the same thing. Like our Black Door campaign was one that I didn't stream, but we had a bunch of our players play in, and it was a way for me to send D&D characters into the Warhammer fantasy world, which that's never going to happen. Wizards of the Coast is never going to work with Games Workshop to do that. But guess what? I don't care. I'm the DM. I get to do it. I can put the portal that they built a door like almost Matrix style, had a hallway of doors, and wherever the door, you never knew what door you were going through, and it led to different places. And because I want to send them to different areas, that's what's going to happen. That's my game. And that's the beauty of the role play game, is that you can do those kinds of stories. So I think it's cool. I think the panel I liked the most, I went to the Adam Coble panel, and he talked a lot about publishers of games working with streamers. And I thought that was a really cool, trying to get that communication in, because there's one way for them to get their product out in front of people, but we also work as good play testers. We're good at building communities, and just to try to build that and get away from how the old way of things were done, and just embrace that new technology to say, hey, let's get this stuff out in front of people, and let's let them, let the world see this stuff. And I thought that was, and just being able to talk to Adam, one of the smartest dudes I can think of. Definitely one of the reasons I'm a GM is based off of him, and doing all the stuff we love to do, running games for people, running lots of different systems for people, not just tied to Dungeons and Dragons, though we love Dungeons and Dragons, but also willing, to play the other games, like your new obsession with DCC and
and I was just reading it this morning.
My book.
I want to run DCC so bad. It's so exciting.
Yeah, so that was good. That was a good panel. Meeting Matt Colville on the show floor. I was at the booth. I'm at Numenera booth, and I'm doing the Predation demo, and they got these cool tables set up, and they've got a really cool way to introduce the game with nice cards and felt tip markers that dry erase off, and it was really well done. and Matt Colville and Anna and Lars show up to the booth, and they're just kind of hanging out. And I'm just like, I got to stop there was nobody at my demo table for the moment. And I hesitate, and I'm like, okay, it's just going to be a minute. I'm just going to run over and talk to him. and I run over really quick, and I'm like, Matt, you're here. This is so cool. And Lars, and point out Anna's shopping and stuff. And he was just like, it's so exciting. And I said, hey, we got to do, after everything's done, after the Kickstarter's over and you get some breathing room, we got to do another interview just to end cap the 2 interviews we did. He's like, yeah, let's do that, because it was really awesome and everybody loved it. And I thought, oh, this could be super cool. We get to do that again. And it was fun to see, somebody that you've talked to through maybe a camera, or maybe you've just watched their videos. So you feel like you kind of, in some ways, when you watch somebody's videos week in, week out, you feel a connection that's there, even if there's not really one there yet.
Yeah.
But when I went up and talked to him and shook his hand, and we just talked about the show and talked about his Kickstarter and stuff again, and now it was in person, it just made that whole thing just kind of snap together. It was super cool to see, another one. So I got to meet Adam. Those are the 2 that really got me into this whole thing. The whole reason I'm doing this show right now, and I'm putting my games online, and I contacted Jordan to do a show, was because Adam and Matt Colville kind of encouraged inside of me, not me personally, but just everybody in general, but I took it to heart to say, hey, do this thing and share it with people.
Yeah.
And it was cool to meet those. So at GenCon, I got to meet both of those people, which was good. Again, I met Adam a couple years ago and had him at his booth. So that's the cool thing of GenCon. But if you can't do that one, you can do PAX Unplugged, or you can meet if you're a super fan of Penny Arcade, go to the PAXs. And if you're a super fan of these other things, I know Dragon Con and Gamehole Con was another one I was hearing about, and Gary Con. And
I know I've got Con Fever now. I want to go to all of them.
And Jordan wanted to, he saw the cosplay. That was my funniest line before we get there, was the funniest thing. Somehow it came up in our conversation where you said, I said, yeah, you'll see plenty of cosplay. And you kind of looked like, wait, people are going to cosplay at Gen Con? And I'm like, oh my God.
Because it's not an anime convention. Like, I was really confused. I'm like, well, at anime conventions, there's like cosplay and things like that. I just didn't think that. I'm like, what, is somebody going to dress up like a meeple? Like walking around? I mean, but they probably would. So, but no, there was really cool costumes, some really cool cosplay out there. So yeah, I'm always amazed. My wife and I like to cosplay it quite a bit, and she sews, and so we make a lot of costume. I should say she makes a lot of costumes, because I'm useless when it comes to that. I sewed a cape once, but that was about it. So it's just fun to dress up, and so it was really fun to see a lot of people dressed up in sweet costumes. And
back to your Numenera game with I Live for Crits, which is James Wall, big guy, big personality in the Numenera community, because the Numenera community right now is starting to move online. But if you were trying to find him a year ago or 2 years ago, it was a big G+ community. Yeah, like lots of people talking with each other, G+ getting together. Not
that Numenera is OSR, but like it seems like the OSR and like obscure, and I say Numenera is obscure, it really isn't, but at the time, obscure role-playing games, their communities are on Google+. Like I just found a great DCC community on Google+.
Yeah,
that's
and
like
he's in that
old.
one too. Yeah, he's big into that one. So it was cool. But this is what I also like. I wanted you in my game, which would have been fun. Graybeard was in my game. He got in, and it would have been cool if you'd have been in my game, which would have been fun because we played games together. But here's what I liked even more about you being in the other game. We were running the same module, and we were able to talk about how it was different. Yeah, how the groups tackled things differently, how the story went in a different direction or in the same direction, how some things were used in one and some things weren't used in another, and two GMs having their style, but also the players and the way their groups are, because you guys all had the same characters, which was interesting too, right? Because it's pre-gen when you go to do a Numenera demo, they pre-gen your characters out. So you just sit down and you just start playing. So it was really cool to kind of get this idea about, well, how did you guys do this? And, oh, we didn't even see that, but we did this. And we're like, oh, okay, we saw that, but we went a different way to do that. It's just like, and it was cool to hear about how, you fixed the problem. The Forgetting Doomsday was the name of it. I won't spoil it, because one of the things I think I might want to do is run it for our friends here online and put it on the channel, because I've always wanted to have, a lot of these things are convention exclusive adventures, and I think it'd be fun that after the fact, if we went back and we played them and put them online, so people could see, okay, what does a convention adventure look like, a 3 to 4 hour type adventure. And I want to do that because I ran Dungeon World, and I ran Numenera and I ran Predation, and I loved all of it, and I think it'd be fun to get some of that out there. So, but it was cool to be able to have that interaction right after a game too. So that was fun. So even if you can't get in the game with your friends, being able to compare how things happen is just as fun. Like hearing Jordan's story of how they fixed the problem, and then me thinking about how my group fixed the problem was a fun experience, even though we didn't get to play together at that moment. So it was cool.
Very cool.
What about purchases? What kind of cool stuff did you pick up while you were there?
Hang on.
Okay, well, I'll start telling you about my stuff. So I got a bunch of cool stuff for GMing, but I did pick up, and I got an overlight pin. He already knows about this. So I got the cool overlight pin from Jordan, which was super cool.
I didn't know we were going to do this.
Really cool. That's okay. And then I'll let you jump in a second. I also found on the last day we were doing some shopping, check this out. I found some coins that are in the shape of the D20, just like the show logo. And these are going to be little things that I think I'm going to give away as prizes, or when I meet fans in the real world or at conventions, we're going to give them these little cool, I'm going to hand out little tokens. And it was really inspired by Jordan creating pins that if you were at, you can't quite see because of my camera, but it's there.
I made Saturday morning D&D show pins that if you met me at GenCon, I was handing them out, and I made way too many. I made like 70, and I think I handed out maybe like 15 or about that. But the people who got them were really excited about getting them, so that was cool. I know, like I met Cyberwolf, and then I forgot to give him a pin, and then I had to like run into him again when he was in line to meet the Critical Role crew, and then I gave him his pin, and he was really excited. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. I saw another cool company. It's something I wanted to do next year is they put their calling card, like, because what a lot of people will do at the game conventions when they want to keep in touch with each other, they'd be like, hey, give me a card, which is a really good idea, especially if you're saying, hey, go to my Twitch channel and watch me play games. It's easy to hand them a card and they can find it and keep doing it. And I should have done that this year and I didn't. But when I asked somebody about, hey, I would like to get some stuff from your store later on because you're sold out, they handed me a 6-sided dice that is basically their card, and I thought, oh, that's such a cool idea. That is
really cool
to hand out a 6-sider that you can use, but also has like your website or maybe my Twitch site or my YouTube site or whatever it might be, and hand those out to people, which would be super cool. As I drop it on the floor.
No, that's really awesome. I picked up I think it was Crystal Dice. I forget the name of it, but they had GenCon Dice, a D6 that had GenCon 2018 written on it. And I ended up picking up that because I'm like, I want like I want to remember GenCon. So I picked that up, which was really awesome.
So those are cool. I got some new RPGs. I got a dice tower, which if you want to watch a video, you can watch it. I just put one up on Monday about building the dice tower. So now I have a dice tower to use when I sit at a table. Several RPGs, and I also got I got a dry erase board. So if I run some games at the table, that I can they link together, and then I can draw maps and stuff on them, which is super cool. And the reason I liked it is because they were a local Kalamazoo vendor. They're right here in town, and I was like, oh, to see somebody from my hometown there to be able to buy something from them is really cool. So I got that too. So that was kind of my purchases. Had a bunch of stuff signed. I got a really cool Gods and Goddesses 5th edition supplement book that I'm going to put into my campaign, which is really good. And I got to meet one of the designers of that, and I'm going to get to do an interview with them. They're going to come on the show. Jetpack 7 is going to bring a couple people, and I'm going to get to talk to them. I don't know if it'll be on the Saturday morning D&D show, but it might just be on the Sir Lucien channel where, I just do a product interview, because we're always careful about trying to throw too many like product stuff in front of you guys. We know you're here to hear about Dungeons and Dragons and RPG rules and the games we run and the games we play and the things that we do. So we try to keep the show definitely about that, and not about, hey, you guys should buy this or you guys should buy that. I can't make promises, but we try to do that.
No, and on that topic, like sponsorship for this show would be really cool to get a sponsor here and there, but we're definitely not, I don't think either of us want to just like shill out things, especially products we don't believe in. So keep that in mind too. Go ahead. And
so that, GenCon is like this huge wrap up of stuff and experiences, and you can talk an entire show based on that for sure. Meeting people, going to games, hosting games, playing games, sitting down and playing demos, sitting down and playing things that are about to come out. You can get there. You were over at the Lucas Oil Stadium, and that's where they were doing a lot of the people had like really rough play test
prototype games. And I played in one stuff. And the guy was just like, well, this game typically lasts like 4 to 5 hours. And I was just like, you know what? I'm really interested in your game, but I cannot commit 4 to 5 hours to especially a game that I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to like this. So we ended up playing it for an hour and then we had to bounce, but interesting stuff. Like, it's a cool opportunity for people like that to be able to not only show off their game, but get user feedback. And I think the first thing I said was, I was just like, you need to cut this down to like 3 hours somehow. Like a 3-hour game is fine, but like 4 to 5 hours is a lot of commitment. So that's like longer than some of my D&D games go.
You can get art and literature were there, and thanks Agrippa. Yay. Ooh, we get a few bits in there. So it's really a place where you can come together and expand your gaming community and be around people that are all gamers. They all love some type of game, whether it's card games, role play games, board games, live action games, true dungeon games, real games, fake games, video games, whatever it is. It's the whole gaming culture in one, and you meet a bunch of people that share that passion with you, which is fun. But it's like, bring good shoes, and you're going to walk around a lot, and it's going to be hard to find a hotel, and parking can be crazy. You got to push through that. Think of it, you're an adventurer, right? You're pushing through the jungle, you're pushing through the woods, you're trying to get to the dungeon. You're going to get there, tackle it like it's a quest, tackle it like that, like you're gaining XP, because the reward is all the stories and all the experiences you get after the fact. And if you can't go because you don't have the money, I get that. Live vicariously through all these people. They're starting to live stream it. Live vicariously through our stories, and we'll take you along with us and enjoy it. However you can enjoy it. Because I was just watching Hyper RPG, who does a Twitch show. They did a 4-day full-on streaming rig he wore the whole time everywhere he went.
Oh, at GenCon?
And I was, yeah. Oh, so crazy. If you want to watch what 4 days of GenCon was, you can jump over to Hyper RPG and watch all of that, and you can see it from their studio setup in the hotel room where they're running shows, to going down to the show floor and walking around and talking to vendors and buying stuff and sitting in games and demoing and doing all that kind of stuff. You can, Twitch can allow that to happen. And maybe we're not going to be as big as what they did last year, but I think next year we're definitely going to have a better presence for you to keep up with what we're doing. And we're going to try to bring more of you along with us that can't make it, in some way, somehow. That's my mission for next year. So we'll see how that goes. So
that sounds awesome.
Keep supporting us, keep supporting the show, because we're going to bring you with us. It's going to be fun. But this is a Saturday morning D&D show where we talk about the news in D&D, right? Or in role-playing games in general. It's funny, we had 4 days of gaming, but I still had a ton of gaming this week even to talk about, let alone everything we did at GenCon.
So what's going on this week, Lucien?
Yeah, so all week, great segue, I love it. So we got back.
We're terrible at segues, by the way. I'm always just let's just go to the next subject. But sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. In your outline, a period. Let's go there now. And so I got back Monday, and instead of being like I thought a lot of people were, many got sick when they got back, or many were tired, like all their energy was gone. But I was super excited and upbeat even Monday. And so I put out a video. You can check it out on my YouTube channel, which is me building the tower, which I've already talked about, to show you a little bit of that. I've been tweeting out random pictures of while I was there. And then Tuesday night, we had our regular game, normally is our Adventure League game. But because we were just getting back from Gen Con and our GM needed a break to bring another player in soon to the show, this Adventure League Tomb of Annihilation show, we did a one-shot of Tales from the Loop, very similar to Kids on Bikes, and had a blast diving into my 80s childhood and running an adventure in 1986 and using every possible reference I could come up with, from theme songs to movies to books to adventures that were out. And we played this really amazing, really fun game with Nomadic and Anarasis and PB Plays Inside. And I got to play the computer geek version of myself as a kid, 13 years old. And it was a blast. Playing a game that goes straight back to your personal history is crazy. It's just super
I hear
fun,
really good things.
super
Yeah.
nostalgic. Yeah, we dressed up.
Nice.
PB looked like the 80s, and everybody had something on that was really fun, and it was just a really good book. If you don't have Tales from the Loop, you can see it back behind me. If I move my head, there you go, the blue one. There we go, this one right here. That is a fantastic book to pick up, not only for the artwork, but the actual fun playing the game. It's a cool mechanic of gameplay. It's rolling D6s, a pool. A 6 is a success. All you're trying to do is get a 6, and you get to do what you want. Some things are like you get to roll 3 of them. Sometimes you get to roll 7 of them. You know, there's a lot of fate point kind of things going on. You have skills and things you can do. And it's a game that I love that has that genre of teenagers in trouble, but finding a way to fix and help their town in some way, right? And that's what we did. Is some technology got loose and was wreaking havoc, and we as the kids were able to solve the mystery of it and get that under control and get it back to where it needed to be. And it was just a cool, fun, concise little adventure. And our GM Nomadic put it in Michigan, which was another cool thing. He put it over on the east side of the state, but all of Michigan is pretty much the same when you're here. It was cool to just be in that whole thing. And I think the next one he wants to run, he said he wanted to run it near Chicago, which I think would be pretty cool because he's from Chicago, and I think he would, he has a lot of reference there. So running games in the real world can be super fun. So we did that. Next week, we should be back with Adventure League, and we have our new player coming in, and she's joining the cast. So we're going to jump the cast up to 4 people, which I think is going to be very cool. We're on our way to really getting into the meat of Tomb of Annihilation. So if you're into what is Tomb of Annihilation all about and playing Adventure League rules and watching our 5th level characters tackle that at this point and try to gain enough levels to do this whole thing, check us out on Tuesday nights. That was really good. Wednesday and Thursday, I decided to stream my prep for my big game that's coming up, that's open to anybody that's a fan of the show and friends and family, which is I want to launch on the week of August the 20th, is a West Marches D&D 5th edition game that is loosely based in the Forgotten Realms, but I happen to be on the continent of Revenar. And if anybody knows that, we'll start checking out some people's street cred here with Forgotten Realms. If you know what I'm talking about when I talk about Revenar, where that's at in the map. And so I'm putting my campaign out there. It's a hex crawl. It's a West Marches style. It's a certain areas have modules connected to them. So if they go to that, it's going to kick off a module. Some of those aren't even D&D modules. Some of them are OSR style modules. Some of them are mega dungeons. Some of it is all kinds of stuff going on. And it's going to be open to anybody that wants to play, as long as they follow the rules of creating their characters and creating the party, and then scheduling me as the GM on certain times, first come, first serve. You're going to get to play in this campaign too, and you're going to get to be on the channel at that point. Which
how long does it take? How long did it take you to craft all of that and to link those adventures to certain areas and what?
I'm still in that.
Yeah.
And if you want to see a little bit of it, you can go back and watch the VODs of my Wednesday and Thursday night, because I streamed getting the town ready, creating a map for the town, starting to fill the town out of the NPCs. I also started hammering out some mechanics, some travel mechanics that I needed to figure out before this thing went live. I still got a bunch of stuff to do, and I'm going to stream all of it as much as I can. So like Twitch overlays and getting the game set up on Roll20, getting all the Twitch pieces put together, getting all the documents for character creation, party creation, and scheduling of games and the rules of the games together. I mean, it's a big production. This is the biggest thing I've done. Not all games have to be this way. Many games can be, you get your friends together, you roll up some characters in that first hour, and you just play a really ad hoc, off the top of your head kind of game, and it can be super fun, super rewarding. This one's going that opposite direction. This one's going, I'm going to make a show out of it. I want documentation for everything. It's going to be big and crazy. I'm bringing in modules from all over the place. I've got all my show prep for that. My campaign prep. We talked about this in our last show. where we talked about the 3 types of prep that we go through. So you have your campaign prep, your session prep, and your show prep if you're going to put it out for people to see, the 3 types of prep. And I'm going full bore on all of them. So this is going to be like weeks of buildup to get this ready to go and off the ground. So, but I'm super excited. I can't wait to have multiple groups running in the same world, running through the same hex crawl, running through some cool features, and it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be really good. And then Friday night, I did a stream with PB Plays Inside. We played some Saints Row 4, which was really fun to just set the RPG stuff aside for a day or a night and then say, let's play some computer game stuff. But tonight, after I go through and we get done with our show and we go on for the rest of the day, tonight I'm going to be test playing a RPG that's based on band battles. So the idea is that you're building this band and you're going to try to become famous as a music band or rock band or any type of music band, really. And you're going to battle other bands. You're going to try to make it by going to these battle of the band kind of things. So like, I'm thinking of, like Scott Pilgrim kind of style play here. And it just has me super excited. It's being made by PB Plays Inside, who's developing the RPG that's eventually going to get put out, hopefully. And we're going to talk about character creation tonight. We're going to talk about how the game mechanics work a little bit.
Nice.
And help her. So being in that design space is really exciting for me, because this year, I've said it a few times, was about getting the shows off the ground, getting the channel up and out there, really connecting with the community. But next year, 2019, is when I tackle design for sure, because I want to put something up on Drive Through RPG. I want to get something up on DM's Guild. I want to get stuff up that people can go and really get into that design space that I already know Jordan's already started to tackle, because he's got his nearly finished.
I just need to work on it.
Yeah.
And then I had an idea for a character class the other day that I'm like, oh, I kind of want to make a character class now. So
see, yeah. I do too. Yeah. And then so Sunday is going to be my sit down at the table and roll. It's a homebrew world, but it's D&D 5e. I get to push lead around. I get to roll physical dice. I get to play with LB Hackemup and her friends. And it's several friends that are from a pretty famous game company here in town. So that's super fun. And we've got a good storyline going. I think we just hit 3rd level. So that's super fun. And I'll finally get to play the Arcane Archer that I built, which is a gnomish Arcane Archer that I've got a really cool backstory. Maybe I'll post that at some point so you guys can see it. And so that's that. And, the whole next week is going to be filled with stuff too. So, I mean, it's like, it was cool. Gen Con happened. And then I rolled right into all this great gaming still going on. What about you, Jordan? How did your gaming go the week you got back?
It didn't, because I had my Hot Springs Island. I got home so late on Sunday. Usually I play games on Sunday, but I got home so late because my plane was delayed again. So instead of getting home at noon and doing, having people over at 2 or 3 and actually playing through my inverted pyramid game, that did not happen. And then my Hot Springs Island game on Tuesday didn't happen because of a friend. It was his mother's birthday or something. And so I only have 3 players for that. And if one player's missing, I've never DM'd for 2 people, but we kind of all decided that a 2-person game just wouldn't really work very well, and kind of 3's the minimum. So we decided to cancel that one. But I did play Adventure League Thursday night, and I couldn't get into my regular table to finish Forges of Fury, which is really sad because I kind of wanted to see that play out to the end. But so I was at another table and we just started, and I wrote it down because I completely forgot what it was called. The Hidden Shrine of Tomoe-chan.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's from Tales of the Yawning Portal. It's an older one that they redid for 5th edition. So we started that one. And it was an interesting game because it's very puzzle based. And I like puzzles. And so we got in there and we were rolling a lot of investigation checks and a lot of puzzles and trying to figure things out. And I was really proud of myself that in the first room that we were in, I figured out 2 of the 6 puzzles. 2 of them I figured out by myself. And I was just like, oh, this is really great. But we had a player that did not like puzzles. And he literally was ruining it for the rest of us. And this culminated in him turning to us and just being like, guys, this entire adventure is a waste of time. I don't even know why I'm here. And we kind of looked at him, and I didn't say this, but I'm like, I don't know why you're here either, because you're kind of ruining this for the rest of us. Like, if you're not having fun, leave. Like, some of us like puzzles. And I did say that. I was just like, some of us like puzzles and we're having a good time. And he just kind of like grunted and like went off into his corner. And then the one time we went into an encounter, we talked our way out of it because we realized the guy was a little more difficult than we had anticipated. And I didn't want to fight him. And the other 3 players didn't want to fight him. He was the only one that did. And he's like, guys, we're not going to get magic items if we don't fight him. We're not going to get experience points if we don't fight him. And we're like, so we don't get magic items. We don't get experience points. We live. How about that? Like, that's exciting. The entire kicker of this is he was so adamant that we weren't going to get any experience points this entire campaign. Or the entire session. And then the kicker at the end was when the guy was like, okay, for solving the first room puzzle, you guys get 1,000 experience. For solving the second room puzzle, you get 1,500 experience. I think we walked away with 2,700 plus experience at the end of the day. And I don't know. It was just an interesting, Adventure League is always weird because you play with random people. And it's definitely not like a bunch of people who are sitting at the table having the same play style as you. But this guy especially was not in a good mood. This was not the adventure for him. And so I'm curious to see him.
That idea that we have different styles.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that, yes, we want to play in games that have a style that match ours, but we might get in a game that doesn't. But that doesn't make that person wrong necessarily, that if they're going to spend 4 hours of their life that they want to play a game they like to play, and maybe that's combat heavy for them or whatever, that's cool. You know, it's okay. Always try to handle the situation better. It sounds like he wasn't able to handle the situation as well, but you know, we're all going to fall into that because we're all going to get into a space where we're like, this kind of seems boring, guys. Can't we just move on? It was like, well, I want to go do this or I want to go do that. And I was a little bit like that because in our Adventure League, we avoided 2 encounters the other night in our Adventure League Tomb of Annihilation because we're in the jungle and we're like, well, we'll just use the jungle to sneak away. And I wanted to be sure that I said to our GM, but we're going to get XP for that, right? Because if you tell me you're not getting XP unless you fight, I'm turning right back around and I'm going to hit something with a sword. And he was like, no, you get XP for encounters. I'm like, cool, let's go with the narrative. I'm having fun. But if the moment you say, no, you guys don't get any XP if you're not fighting, I'm throwing punches at something, you know? Yeah. And so I get the mentality too, but I wonder whose job is it at that point to fix that?
I don't know. I would say try something new, though. Like, that was where I was frustrated with this guy is like, you've never, well, and maybe he has been in adventures like this, but I'm like, try something new. Like, you're used to combat. And the only reason I point this out is because I know that the 2 guys sitting to my right were very combat-oriented D&D players because I played with them before at Adventure League. And they very much are just like, okay, they've read the monster manual and they would be like, all right, this is a demon of this type. So I know that he can't be put to sleep. So we need to do X, Y. And like, they're very almost metagamey fighters. And they had a blast trying to solve these puzzles because it was something new that they hadn't experienced before, you know? Mm-hmm. And so this other guy was just kind of like, just give it a shot. You might like it, but he was not interested in giving it a shot. But it'll be interesting. I think more play will, because D&D is changing how you gain experience in Adventure League to be more of a how far do you progress the story as opposed to how many monsters do you fight. And so I think Adventure League will change and the mentality will change. It's just going to take, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. And I think that's what, MJS October and Quintus is talking a little bit about. And I think looking at that situation, because another reason we do this show, or the real reason we do this show, is to try to give you guys advice for being a GM or a DM, which is what we're doing and what we've learned from those kinds of games. To me, I like what Quintus says, where I think the GM needed to step in a little bit when he sees the friction happening.
Yeah.
To try to smooth that over. But I also listened to Adam Coble not too long ago talking about the GM's role, where he said, that's what everybody says it is, but it's you're the GM and you're there to run the game. You're not there to make sure everybody has fun. It's the group's responsibility to make sure everybody has fun. It's not up to you to try to play matchmaker between everybody that's having a problem as the GM. there is that, all that pressure shouldn't be on you. But that's how I always felt it was. I always felt, oh, I'm running the game. It must be up to me. I'll give you an example right now in my own group, and I don't know how many of them are listening to this. A couple of them might be. There's a little bit of friction about should a player stay or go in one of our games that I'm running. And they came to me several times and said, hey, are you going to get rid of this player? And I went right back to them. I said, I'm not getting rid of anybody. If you guys don't want somebody in your group, you need to come together and you need to discuss it like adults and just say, hey, maybe you're not having as much fun as you thought you were. It's okay if you go. There's no hard feelings. Come at it from a direction of we all just talk it out and it's there. But it's not on me to decide one way or the other if your party's needs to change in dimension. And so that's a really careful place to put yourself as a GM, but don't feel like it's your job. If they're not having fun, it's not just because of you, right? It's about all of us coming together and all of us giving our expectations and meeting those expectations that we set to have a fun game. And if we don't have the same styles, if Jordan loves puzzles and I hate puzzles, it may mean we're not going to have much fun playing in those games together. It doesn't mean we can't be friends. Doesn't mean we can't do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But our styles of play are a little bit different. So I need to find a group that has the style I like. I need to find the GM that has the style I like. It doesn't mean anybody's doing it wrong. And I just hope that people can do that. It feels to me like it's never one person's fault when you look at these kinds of things. I feel like it's everybody's fault in a little bit of way, right? It's a little bit of the players not coming together and trying to maybe say, hey, and maybe you guys did. I wasn't at the table. I'm not trying to throw blame or anything like that. But it was like a little bit of as the players try to bring that person in when they see they're being a little tack turn. That player doing what you said, be willing to experience something new. If he would have been willing or she would have been willing to take that extra step, that might have smoothed the whole other thing. If the GM would have noticed that they were really antsy about not getting XP and encouraged them to say, no, you're going to get plenty of XP,
right?
Play this thing out. Maybe that would have smoothed the whole session over 3 hours into it, before waiting.
And I got a feeling that the GM and the player knew each other outside of the game, and he was being adversarial to the GM and the GM was being adversarial back. And I'm like, I think they're either acquaintances that don't really care for one another, or they're friendly enough that they're like, I'm going to kill you kind of a thing. I don't know. It was interesting, but yeah.
And like you said, we're meeting people that we've never played with. We may never play with again if they're not there the next night. So that throws a whole new mechanic into. It's not the same as putting your home group together and playing a game. It's a very different style. But I always want to learn from a situation, whether I'm in it or not. So when Jordan tells me something like that, that helps me think about the next time I'm in a situation, because I had weird experience. Well, not weird, but really crazy experience. I was running the Dungeon World game at GenCon. We'll bring it back around here for a second. And the group, we were playing a dark, I set up a dark game of Dungeon World where everybody was undead. The world around them is dying. And it's about the last living spark and deciding, are you going to fight for this world, or are you going to let it pass in the night type thing? And it was really atmospheric, and I was setting that whole thing up, and they turned it into the Monty Python comedy show. And I sat back as they're laughing and crying at the jokes they're making and thinking to myself with a smile, this isn't the game I would want to play. I would want to take the material a little more seriously. But I realized in that moment it was okay because they were all having fun, and it's okay if it's not the style of game I want to play. They are loving it. They were having this great story about how the companion mule named Olaf and their wizard Kevin, who could only say the word Kevin to communicate. And I had a player at the table who, when he created his character, his jaw was missing on the undead. So he said nothing the whole 4 hours of the game. All he did was make grunting noises because he was thinking that's how the undead would act. And normally we would all say that's huge red flags of don't do this at a table. Don't be the player who's not going to talk for 4 hours. Don't create the character that can't do that. But they made it work. They were having fun. And by the time they were crying, they were laughing so hard about this game. And I was just like, this is crazy. This is not the group I normally would have done, but hey, they loved it and they walked away with a great experience. And that just tells me the same thing like what you're talking about is you've got to just be willing to sit there and see somebody else's style or be playing somebody else's style and enjoy it for what it is, even if it's not what you normally would do.
Yeah.
Adventure League. And with all the Season 8 Adventure League changes coming,
it's going to be different.
A lot.
It's going to be a lot. They're actually going to have a big meeting about it with my local game store. They want to have a meeting so that we're all on the same page going forward, because it's just
huge.
Dramatically different. And then I won't get into it, but another thing I did is I played a DCC funnel game, and I love Dungeon Crawl Classics. I really want to talk about this more, so I will talk about it next week because I think it warrants talking about, and I think DCC warrants talking about because I don't want to say it's a little unknown game, but like more people should know about it because it's a really, really clever, really awesome role-playing game. And the book is only like $40 and it's everything. It's a Dungeon Master's Guide.
Huge.
It's a monster manual, and it's a player's guide. So check it out. And with that, I think we will close out our Saturday morning D&D show. I want to say thank you to all of the people that came and chatted with us today live on Twitch. If you're watching this or listening to this not live, you can always catch us live Saturday mornings at 12 p.m. Not Pacific time, Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific, on twitch.tv/Sir Lucien. And with that, we will take off, I guess. And we will see you next Saturday with another exciting episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show, where I talk about Dungeon Crawl Classics, games that we're playing, and whatever else news is happening in the world of RPGs. So with that, take care, everybody. We will see you next Saturday.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.